David Hector Gutierrez, Jason Michael Johnston, Ronald J. Spino, Anton Ramesh Phillips, Brushan Xavier Anderson, Brian Robert Bowman, John Philip Dion, Joshua Allen Langsdorf, Bradley Randall Smith, David Andrew Croft Jr., Michael Robert Jarrett, Jason Omar Bradley Hickman, Ryan Jeffrey Hopkins, Mark David Flores, Jacob Alexander Meinart, Matthew Nevin Ingham, Jamie Russell Lowe, and Nicholas Kelly Uzinski.
This is in honor of our fallen. Lucas Tyler Beechnaw, Daniel Dwayne Merriweather, Jeffrey Alexander Wissett, Kyle James Wright, Christopher Richard Urbeck, Robert John Denevsky, Michael Paul David Shannon, my son Adam Kenneth Gannett, Paul Wenceslas Penna was killed right beside my son. Gifford Ethan J. Hurt, Thaddeus Scott II Montgomery,
my son Jeremy Mitchell Kane,
Zin Key, Daniel McKinnon Angus, Timothy James Jr. Poole. We remember.
It's an honor to remember the following heroes: Zachary Dylan Smith, Carlos Edward Gill, Scott Garland Barnett, Rusty Hunter Christian, Mark Paul Decoto, my husband David J.P. Thompson, Michael Lewis Freeman Jr., Zachary George Lovejoy, Daniel Preston Witten, David James Hartman, Matthew Stephen Slustiller, Mark Allen Stetz Jr., Dylan B. Fox, Charles Alvin Williams II, Adam James Ray, Adriana Alvarez, Bobby Justin Pagan, John Allen Reiners, Jacob Henry Turbett, Jeremiah Thomas Whitman, Jason Hill Estapinal, Sean Leach Kaufman, Noah Miles Peer, Alejandro J. Yazzie, Eric Dennis Courier, Kyle Joseph Kutu, Keelan Terrell Dunn, Larry Michael Johnson, Jeremy Ryan McQuarrie.
Remembering our fallen and fallen soldiers: Joshua Harold Birchwell, Gregory Scott Stoltz, Christopher William Eckhart, Marcus Ray Alford Sr., Marcus Antonio Gora, Billy Jean Grinder, Matthias Newman Hansen, Adam Daniel Pick, J.R. Salvacion. He flew out on the way back from Afghanistan with my husband. Eric Levi Ward, William Clifton Spencer, Daniel Todd O'Leary, William Seth Ricketts, Carlos Alberto Aragon, and my husband, Michael David Cardenas.
Josiah Dennis Crumpler, Ian Timothy Dagdagnan Gallick, Matthew David Huston, Vincent Lee Carson Owens, Nigel Kenton Olson, Anthony Americo Pocky, Alan Nathan Dickus, Nicholas Scott Cook, Aaron Montel Arthur, Lakeisha Mesha Bailey, Jason Michael Kropat, Jonathan Jerome Richardson, Garrett William Gamble, Glenn Jacob Wetton, Stephen Jesse Bishop.
In honor of our heroes, Aaron Lee McMillan, Jonathan Daniel Porto, Joel David Clarkson, Robert Lee Gilbert II, Richard Joseph Jordan, Adam Lee Mr. Brown, Robert Michael Renkhoff, Justin J. Wilson, Rick Joseph Sententi, Robert James Cottle, Jacob Allen Ross, Randy Michael Heck, James Lee Miller, Raymond Nava Paklib Jr., Michael David P. Cardenza. In honor of my soul partner and husband, Carlos Santos Silva, we remember.
Scott William Brunkhorst, Miroslav Stephen Zilberman, Tyler Owen Griffin, Frank Joseph Alfonso World, Curtis Michael Swenson, Kurt Elmo Cruz, William Anthony Blunt, Robert Wilson Collins, Roberto Efren Diaz Boria, Jonathan David Hall, Sean Michael Durkin, Michael Douglas Jankowitz, James Bertrand Lackey, Randell Dunton Voss, and Joseph Barry Karen.
Michael Keith Ingram Jr., James Richard Patton, Randolph Alonzo Sigley Jr., Charlie Cabay Antonio, Robert John Barrett, John Keith Labordi, Christopher Dwayne Worrell, Ronald Allen Kubik, Jason Anthony Santora, Grant Arthur Witchman, Keith Adam Coe, Nathan Patrick Kennedy, Anthony O'Neill McGee, Thomas Edward Rivers Jr., Salvatore Simplicio Corma II, Eric Maptong Finnegan, Mark Wayne Coleman, Austin Harper Gates Benson, Isao Shalem Antasio Gonzalez, Ralph Mena Jr., Brandon Aaron Barrett, Richard Rees Penny, Christopher Rangel, Wade Allen Slack, Joshua Michael Davis, Kyle Aaron Comfort, Jeremy Lynn Brown, Kurt Stephen Shea, Jeffrey Warren Johnson, Keith Blaine May Jr.
Joshua David DeFlores, Donald James Lamar II, Dennis DeLamon Christoph, Nicholas Demas Pardaro Regardez, Zenar Andre Wood, Billy Jean Anderson, Adam Levy Perkins, Paul Robert Bartz, Thomas Patrick Belkoffer, Philip P. Clark, John Michael McGough, Richard James Tiemann, Joshua Arab Tolson, Patrick Xavier Jr., Shane Stanley Bernard.
Stanley John Sokolowski III, Amilcar H. Gonzalez, Jason David Finger, Christopher Ryan Barton, Ronald Wayne Culver Jr., Edwin Rivera, Jacob Carl Leaked, Jake William Suter, Anthony Attilio Delicio, Alvaro Rogelio Regalado Sasarigo, Jonathan Kelly Lee Penny, Francisco Javier Guardado Ramirez, Joseph James Theinert, Steve M. Tebald, Brandon Cole Burry.
Derek Hernandez, Donald Matthew Marla, Michael Everett McGann, Robert Nicholas Barden II, Matthew Ryan Catlett, Charles Scott Jerdal, Joshua Oconee Lukiala, Brendan Patrick Neenan, John Kenneth Rankel, Blaine Edward Redden, Eric Justin Klusak, Derek Lee Shanfield, Zachary Joe Walters, Michael Paul Flores, Joel Christopher Gintz.
Michael G. Plank, David Casey Smith, Benjamin Daniel White, Gavin Roderick Brummond, Christian Michael Adams, Robert James Fike, Brian Allen Hoover, Israel Paul O'Brien, Mario Rodriguez Jr., William Christopher Yacht, Brian Michael Anderson, Christopher Wesley Opat, Benjamin Douglas Osborne, Michael Chad Bailey, Nathan William Cox.
Gunnar Randall Hodgkin, Joseph Dennis Johnson, Jeffrey Robert Stanfest, Michael Paul Cassidy, James Patrick Hunter, William F. Ortega, Benjamin J. Park, Scott Anthony Andrews, Jacob Park Dorenwend, Andrew Richard Looney, David Taylor Miller, Timothy Giles Siranowski, Brandon Mark Silk, Kevin Alexander Cuto, Joshua Robert Dumas,
Claudio Patino IV, Eddie Turner, Anthony T. Justison, Russell Edward Madden, Eduardo Loretto, Robert Kelsey Levi Repke, Dane Adam DeBoer, Jared Clifton Plunk, Blair Daniel Thompson, Joseph Davis Caskey, Bryant Jamal Haynes, David Alexander Holmes, William Taylor Richards, John Michael Rogers, Eric Byron Shaw.
David William Thomas, Christopher David Chaplow, Matthew Robert Hennigan, Andrew James Cretan, Larry Donnell Harris Jr., Ryan John Grady, David Anthony Jefferson, Johnny Wayne Lumpkin, Morgan Marie Macbeth, Jordan Elias Tuttle, David Anthony Wisniewski, Jacob Anthony Dennis, Clayton Dwayne McGarrah, Christopher Francis Cabacoy, Keenan Alexander Cooper,
Louis Robert Fastuca, Jared Heath Osborne, Edwin Cobell Wood, Mark A. Arizmendez, Roger Lee, Michael Shane Preedham Jr., Anthony Warren Simmons, Daniel Gabriel Rainey, Jesse Wayne Ainsworth, Robert Wayne Crow Jr., Joseph Whitting Dimock II, Donald Rocky Edgerton, Sean Michael Mittler, Carlos Javier Negron, Tyler Allen Rhodes,
Christopher John Antonick, Nathaniel Douglas Garvin, Christopher Schultz Goki, Christopher James Moon, Christopher Todd Stout, Sheldon Leon Tate, Zachary Michael Fisher, Matthew James Johnson, Brandon Michael King, Jesse David Reed, Chase Brennan Stanley, John Haskell Durrell, Leston Michael Winters, Justice Stephen Joe Bartelt, David Michael Malexi Santos.